Hello beautiful Docker people. Today I'm back with another Docker video, and in this video we'll be talking about Docker Entrypoint versus CMD. I have seen a lot of people actually get confused about the differences between the two. So this is why I'm making the video to help you understand the differences, right? So in this video I will try to explain to you what is Entrypoint first of all, and then CMD. Why should you be using CMD and Entrypoint, right? And after watching the video, I'm pretty sure you would never forget the differences between the two until your retirement day. In this video, I will walk you through with a lot of examples. So before jumping into the demo session, let us first of all understand what is Docker Entrypoint. So Docker Entrypoint is a Docker file directive or instruction that is used to specify the executable which should run when a container is started from a Docker image. You can write Entrypoint in two forms. The first one is the exec form, that is the preferred one, and the second one is the shell form. I will show you both forms during the demo session. So if there is no Entrypoint or CMD, for example, is specified in a Docker image or in a Docker file, it starts and exits at the same time. So when you run the docker run command, container is not going to run in the background, right? Container starts and exits at the same time. That means container stops automatically. So if you run docker ps-a command in the CLI, you can see container exited like X seconds ago or X minutes ago. That's what you're gonna see. Is because there was no service running, there was no executable running, for example, in the background. So what it did, it just, let's say you wanted to run hello world, echo hello world. So it will give you the output and right after it will exit the container. So Docker CMD defines default commands or parameters for a container. So the CMD instruction has three forms. As we talked about, Entrypoint has two, but CMD has three. No worries, we are going to show you all those forms in the demo session. So the main purpose of a CMD is to provide defaults for an executing container. It's like a running container. So these defaults can include an executable or they can omit the executable, in which case you must specify an Entrypoint instruction as well. So if CMD is used to provide default arguments for the Entrypoint instruction, both the CMD and Entrypoint instruction should be specified with the JSON array format, that you need to use a double quotation when you write in the exec form, but you cannot use single quote, but because when you write JSON, you write always double quotation, right? So there can be only one CMD instruction in a Docker file. So what happens if you write more than one? No worries, you are going to see it in the demo session. So I think you understand the differences now. Without further ado, let's jump into the demo session. So let us start with a Dockerfile. So this is going to be very simple Dockerfile where we will be only putting CMD and Entrypoint and we will be showing different scenarios. So we are going to pull Ubuntu 18.04 Docker image from Docker Hub, and I'm going to run CMD command. This CMD command is going to give me the output of the host name, right? So it's gonna cat the content of /etc/hostname within the running container when I run the container, right? So this is what this Dockerfile is gonna do. The basic syntax for the CMD and Entrypoint in the exec form is going to be like this: executable and then the parameters. In the shell syntax is going to be CMD, you write CMD and then the parameters. But no worries, we are going to go through them. So in my project directory, I have a Dockerfile, right? And now we are going to build the image. To build an image from a Dockerfile, we need to run docker build command, and we are going to pass -- tag. So we are going to tag our image as Entrypoint versus CMD, and then you put a dot if the Dockerfile is in the current directory, or you can put -f, which is the path to your Dockerfile. So if you run Docker images, you will get the list of images available, right? So this is the image that we have built just now. So repository is Entrypoint versus CMD and you get the ID, right? So our image is ready and we are ready to run. This is not running as a service, remember that. This Docker image, this Docker container is not going to run as a service. So we run docker run --rm. So rm is going to remove the container once container is exited. So we pass the image ID, right? So we run the container and container exited, right? And it just gave the output. So now I'm able to override the CMD command. As you can see in the Dockerfile is cat/etc/hostname, but instead here during the runtime of the container I'm going to inject cat/etc/host instead. So what is going to happen is that it's going to override the parameter that we have passed in the Dockerfile. So what we have seen right now is just we can override a CMD command during the runtime. And the one you see on the line number 2 is the shell form. It's not an exec form. So after echo, you can put double quotation or you can ignore it. I wanted to show you both way it works. So now we have built the image again. So we are going to run the CMD command, right? So if we do not pass anything, it's gonna output the content that is already included in the Dockerfile. But if you want to override, you can just pass in during the runtime. So when we run the container, we are writing echo hey Docker. It means that we are overriding the default value. So what we have learned so far, the command that we pass in the Dockerfile, they can be overridden during the runtime. So this is the first thing you need to remember. So now we are going to convert this command an exec form. So the way it works is like as we talked about before, JSON array. So we need to put a double quotation. So echo is the executable here and hello Docker is the param or parameter here. So this is how you write the exec form. And now let us, since we modified our Dockerfile, we need to build the image again, right? So let's build the image and we're gonna run the container out of that image. So now this time we are passing echo hey Docker. So you see the output is hey Docker instead of hello Docker because it has overridden. If we did not pass hey Docker, the output is going to be hello Docker instead, right? So this is how you can override. Let us do another scenario. So now we are gonna pass in a shell variable inside exec form. So in this case, I'm putting home variable. So when we run this, we need to of course build the image and run the container again. So now what we are going to show you, is it going to output the home variable content? Actually did not, right? So it seems like the exec form cannot process the shell variables, so it doesn't really work. So to make it work, you need to actually use shell form instead of exec form. So now if we build the image again, run the container, we should be able to get the content or to get the output of home variable. So let us run the container and see what happens. So that every time you change or modify the Dockerfile content, you need to build the image again. So now we have built the image and we are going to run the container, right? So once we run, you can see /root because this is coming from within the container. So we get the exact output that we wanted to, right? So behind the hood, when you run the shell command, as I said before, that shell command is going to be translated or converted to exec form. So we got the output of home variable. So we are going to override the default variable. So instead we run printenv, and if we run printenv, we can see we get the output, which means that we were able to override CMD, right, during the runtime. Excellent. So I think you understood pretty much the idea of CMD so far, but hold on, we're gonna still continue with a bit more examples with CMD. So as we talked about before, you can have only one CMD in your entire Docker file. So what happens if we have two? So let us try that out. So we have one in shell form and one in exec form. So let's build the Docker image and run the container. So if you see the output, it has actually taken the last one into consideration. So we got the output of hello Docker. We did not get the output of the exec form one, right? So now if we run it again, we can see hello IntelliJ. So we get the last one, the output from the last one. So here I'm actually not building the image and running the image from the CLI. I'm using the built-in Docker feature in IntelliJ, so it's very easy to do the demo session. So excellent. So as you can see, I have written 3 of these CMD commands on the same Dockerfile, and it's still we get the output from the last one. So remember that you can write only one. If you write tens of the CMD command, it doesn't make any sense because only the last one will be executed. Alright, let's move on to the Entrypoint. So Entrypoint you can write in exec form. So exec form, as we have seen, the first one is executable, which is echo, and then we're gonna write hello world. So Entrypoint is gonna basically give the output of hello world. So when we run, now if you have noticed, we got hello world, hello Docker. So basically it has appended, right, to what we have passed with Entrypoint. So let us do it again. So if we run it again without any parameter, now we have 2 of them. So last one is gonna take into consideration, not the first one. You can see you have seen already for CMD. So same concept goes with Entrypoint. So if you have more than one, the last one is executed, not the first one, not the middle one. So remember that. Put only one Entrypoint in your enter Dockerfile and one CMD. Alright, excellent. So we understood we cannot write more than one. So you're gonna run it again. So if you run it again, you do not pass anything. You get hello Docker. So it has taken the last one, right? Not the first one. No matter if you write in shell form or in exec form, it doesn't really matter. So let's remove or let's comment the last one. So we will have only one. And if we run the container again, we should get the output of hello this time, right? That's what we were expecting. So if we want to now pass in something here, then it's gonna get appended to the one we have already in Entrypoint. So instead we should get this time hello Docker. So in CMD it was overriding. In case of Entrypoint, it's actually getting appended, right? So you got the concept clear here. So now we're gonna add CMD along with Entrypoint. So this time what is going to happen? Can you guess? So if you do not pass in anything, let's say you just run the container, don't pass anything, what will happen? Did you figure out the answer yourself? So let us build the image and let us show you the output in this case. So we are going to run the container now. So in here we are going to pass in Docker, right? So if we pass in Docker, we're gonna get hello Docker. CMD, notice CMD still get overridden, right? But not the Entrypoint. Entrypoint was hello, CMD was world, but we have passed Docker. So we got the output of hello Docker. So if we do not pass anything, CMD will have the default parameter, right? So that is going to be output. So in here is going to be hello world if we do not pass anything. So if we put Entrypoint at the end, what will happen this time? Actually, we talked about it, so let us test it. So let's run it, and you're gonna see hi world instead of hello world. As we talked about, the last one get executed, not the first one, not the middle one. So Entrypoint on line number 7 actually got executed along with CMD on line number 3. So that's the output you have got. I guess you understood the idea of Entrypoint so far. If you have any doubt, any confusion, go on and I'm gonna clarify all your confusion because I have more examples for you guys. So if I run Docker, I'm gonna get hi Docker, right? Excellent. So let us do something more to help you understand. So we talked about Entrypoint, but I didn't talk so far that Entrypoint actually can be overridden. I talked about CMD can be overridden. So now I'm going to show you how you can actually override the Entrypoint. Actually, it's not meant to be, but yeah, and but there is a parameter that you could actually use to override. So now we are going to override Entrypoint. So you need to pass in the plug before you put the image ID. Otherwise, you're gonna get an error. So you pass in the dash Entrypoint and /bin/cat. So you want to cat the content of hostname that we have done in the beginning of the video. So I get the output, right? If you have noticed, I get the output of the hostname. Excellent. So we are able to override the Entrypoint, which is really cool. Hang on, we are not done yet. We have a lot more to go through. So let's do a little bit more testing on this one, and after that we are gonna have bonus demo session as well. So let's change this Entrypoint from cat to ls, and we are going to run this command -al/opt. Seems like there is no content within our /opt folder, so let's change it to something else. Instead, if we put /bin, of course there is a lot going on there. So we get the inside the bin, you can see sleep command, right? So let us run sleep command here. So if you run like this, it's not gonna work. It's because the reason you see the error is because we are running /bin/ls command is not valid, right, with the ls. So this is why you get the error. So instead we're gonna refactor this command to make it right. So inside bin we have seen sleep, so you're gonna type in sleep here, and sleep takes seconds, so you're gonna pass in 5 seconds. As you can see, the container is running, but it's waiting actually 5 seconds. Excellent. So we have seen how we can override the Entrypoint. Now we are gonna go for the bonus demo session, and in this one is very interesting. So here I have copied the content of Dockerfile from one of my previous videos. So we have an Entrypoint here. Entrypoint executable is nginx, and it takes 2 parameters, as you can see, right? So what we're gonna do now, we are going to run this particular Dockerfile. So we want to build an image out of the Dockerfile, and we want to run the container. After that, I'm gonna show you something interesting what happens within the container here. We can see from the build log and on the left hand side that image is already built, and container is also running there, right? So the container is my web app. So as you can see the log, it has built the image. So if I run docker ps, I can see the nginx my web app container is running. So now we want to do exec into the container. So we are going to get into the container, and if we run the top command, you see the first PID is nginx, right? And if you see number 8, number 9, number 10, they are nginx. So this time when we run the Entrypoint, we are running the Entrypoint in exec form. We did not run the command in shell form. So now let's switch back to shell form. So shell form command is going to be this equivalent to the exec form one. So we are going to build the container and run the container again, and we will get into the container and we will run the top command again. All right, so let's do the docker ps, and we can see our container is running, and we are going to exec into that running container. So we need to change the ID, right? The ID has changed. So now we are inside the container, and if we run the top command, you can see the first PID is actually sh instead of nginx. Why is that so? Can you guess why this has changed? I talked about before in the earlier session of this video that whatever you write in the shell form is going to be converted to an exec form. So if you look at here, the path and the args, it tells you everything, right? Because this is the nginx running as a sub command of shell. So this is why shell has taken PID1 and nginx got into after that, right? But when you run the exec form before, it was running as PID1, but not in this case. It's because whenever you run the shell command, as I said earlier, that is going to be translated, or that is going to be converted to exec form. This is why you see this command. So if you switch back to Entrypoint exec, This is what you need, is because when you run the exec, it will properly stop the container. If you do not, then when you have a really long executable, a container might not stop properly. This is why you need to use the exec before the nginx command. So now if we run this filtering command, so we are gonna get the output in a table format. So in here we're gonna get the ID tables and stuff like so. So what are the takeaways? The shell form prevents any CMD or run command like arguments from being used, but has the disadvantage that your entry point will be started as a sub command of /bin/sh-c, which does not pass signals. So this means that the executable will not be containers PID1 and will not receive Unix signals. So your executable will not receive a seek term from Docker stop container ID, right? That's what I talked about. We still continue a bit more about this topic, but I think I covered most of the bullet points here and tried to show you the main differences. So I do not want to drag this video to 30 minutes. It's already 20 minutes. So I'm gonna stop here for today. If you like my video, do not forget to comment, like, share and subscribe. And thanks for watching. See you in the next one.